Welcome everybody to a brand new episode of Identity Talk for Educators Live, the show for the unsung heroes of education. I'm your host, Kwame Sarfo-Mensah, and if this is your first time tuning into the podcast, I welcome you and I hope that today's episode is one that'll have you coming back for more. Now, if you're a returning listener or viewer of the podcast, as always, I welcome you back and I hope that today's episode is one that you will find informative, enlightening, and as always, insightful. So before we get into the main event, for those who are listening or watching on YouTube, please make sure you hit the red subscribe button so you can get future notifications on new episodes. If you're listening from Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts, make sure you subscribe there as well. And for those who have been asking, hey, Kwame, how can we help support you and can help you continue to build this platform called Identity Talk? Well, there's a few ways you can do that. If you're on Cash App, you can use the handle $IDTALK4ED. Venmo, you can use the handle @KwameSM. And if you are on PayPal, you can access the page with the URL paypal.me/KwameSM. And then for those who have been day ones, who have been supporting Identity Talk over the past 6+ years, we now have an online community called the Forum, which is the exclusive membership space for all Identity Talk members. So you can get some exclusive perks, some behind the scenes footage of this podcast, as well as some other incentives as a token of my appreciation for all the support you've given me over the years. And you can access that at our main website at identitytalkforeducators.com. And that's also where you can access our past episodes of the podcast. Now, for my teachers who are on summer vacation, you're looking for something to add to your summer list, make sure you get Learn to Relearn, my newest book, Support Identity and Culture Affirming Classroom. It's been out for a few months, and I can tell you, it's the gift that just keeps on giving. I'm so thankful for those who have been purchasing copies of the book, who have been spreading the word about the book to their teacher friends and others, testimonials, the reviews, everything. I am very thankful and grateful and humbled by all the support. And just to let you know, this book now is a 2-time award-winning book. Win the EPI Gold Medal for Best Education Commentary Book and this year's Forward Indies Gold Award for Best Education Book. And that all happened because of your support. So I thank you all for doing that. Now, for those who don't have a copy of it yet, I don't know what you're waiting for. Go order a copy today. You can get it on the Rutledge website directly. You can go to Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, wherever you can get books, it's there. And once again, thank you all for the support. Now, people, usually with the guests that I have coming on, these are people who I've never met in life, who I'm just coming across on social media, and I just admire the work that they're doing. But this guest today, honestly, in many ways, is the reason why I am the educator who I am today. He really provided a blueprint for a lot of what you've seen me do with Identity Talk many, many years back. And I think of all the books I have in my library, I probably have more books from him than anybody else. So just to prove it to you, here are just a few of the books he's written over the years. So we got here, come on, Choose to Stay, classic book. This book is the book that got me to stay in the urban school settings as a teacher in the classroom. Reading this story got me to keep on going, gave me motivation at times where I wanted to give up. This is a book that you got to have in your library. So I Choose to Stay, The Immortality of Influence, another classic book. Got to get you that. Passionate Leadership, one of his newer books that he co-authored. And there are many more. And he's writing more and more books. I cannot keep up with this man. But I would not be here today if it was not for today's guest. And I'm not going to waste any more time. I'm going to bring him on right now. So without further ado, I want to bring on the Dr. Salome Thomas-EL to the podcast to share his story and what makes him the educator that he still is today. So let's bring Dr. L on to share his story. Yes, sir.
Hey, good day, my brother. How are you?
Man, I'm good. How you feeling?
I'm blessed. I'm just to be on with one of my heroes. You know what I
Come
mean?
on.
It's just I can't ask for more than that. You know what I mean?
Oh, man.
Can't ask for more than that, my brother. I'm so
Yeah,
proud of the
yes.
work, so proud of the work that you're doing, and glad that I
Thank
had a
you.
chance to impact your life. That's what that immortality of influence is all about. Is
That's
you
right.
can touch one person, and they'll go on to impact thousands of others. So your reach, your influence lives on, forever. So I'm glad you picked up that baton and you kept moving with it.
Nah, but it would not have happened if you didn't provide a blueprint almost 2 decades ago. Can't believe it's been that long. I
Tell
mean, I
me
got the
about it.
grades, got the
Hey,
grades to prove it at this point.
tell you, I didn't realize it is 2025, isn't it? Not, and I
2025.
yeah, and I came in
2025.
2026 to Russell Byers. Is that the year you came or no?
I
What year?
came I came
I mean,
2008.
2006. I mean, you came '08
2008.
to '08.
I came '08. And we'll talk more about that because there's some things that I gotta share with you that I've never shared with you before.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking about it the other day, like, wow, that day that I was in your office interviewing for the teaching fellow position,
Mm-hmm.
there were so many things that were going on at that time. But we'll get into it. But I want to make sure we start from the beginning because that's what we
Mm-hmm.
like to do on this podcast.
Yes, sir.
Obviously, I know your story
Mm-hmm.
because you are an open book, literally. And yeah, just tell me about your early upbringing in North Philly.
Born and raised, brother. Yeah,
Born and raised, yes,
born and
sir.
raised. You're born in the Diamond Street Project, same project where Dawn Staley is from.
Yep.
Yeah, and grew up in North Philly, and my mother raised, six boys, eight children, six boys and two girls. I was the next to the youngest child, single mom, and my older brothers, sisters were not, graduating from college. And my mother walked into my third grade classroom. She would tell a story often. My third grade teacher was a young white female, and often, they really felt intimidated, in the community. But she said I had to go in and support and be humble because I asked her for a big favor and said,
Mhm.
I need your help. My mother had a teachable spirit, and she said, one of my children, one has to graduate from college, and I need your help. And my teacher had every reason to say, I can't focus on your son. I got 25, 30 other students to help. But that's not what good teachers do, Kwame.
Right.
Excellent teachers move ordinary children to do extraordinary things. And she worked with my fourth grade teacher, who was an older African American female, been at our school about 30 or 40 years. We thought she came with our building, but those two ladies, they were saving Private Ryan every day. That was their job, going into the inner city. Sometimes it can be like a war zone in some of these communities, but they knew that in order for their influence to continue, that they had to be able to impact young people. And I was one who listened. They helped me to get into Masterman, which was a school for gifted students, as you're aware. And I
Yeah.
was able to attend Masterman. And then for high school, I went to Simon Gratz High School, became a basketball player where many basketball greats from Philly, Aaron McKee, Rasheed Wallace, all
Yep.
these players went Simon Gratz after me. But I thought I could skip college and go right to the NBA. But some of my teachers said, come here, son. Of my counselor, they said, you can't jump over a credit card. So you are not going to the NBA, but you're smart enough to get an MBA. Why don't you go away
Mhm.
to college and come back and help the same community that supported you and supported your family? And they were right. And I graduated college, started working in television, and went into a high school one day, Strawberry Mansion, to speak to some young people
Yep. Oh,
about job and TV. And, the kid said, well, if you could come in and motivate us, how come you aren't a teacher? And it hit me right there that these teachers, my mother never owned a car, Kwame, never had a driver's license.
yeah.
My teachers drove me to school, picked me up, made sure I had what I needed, to get into school. And that's what led me to, I quit my TV job and got a master's degree, and I started teaching in 1987. And I never looked back, brother, 38 years later. And I know that was the best decision that I could ever make.
Yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, like your mom, she worked in the school, APPAREL, right?
Yeah, she was. And
Yeah.
when I wanted to become a teacher, I called my mom and I said, Mom, I want to be a teacher. And she said,
Right.
best move you could ever make. Just remember that every teacher is not a parent, but every parent is a teacher.
Mm.
And I held on to that. But I remember when I wanted to become a principal, I called and said, Mom, I want to be a principal. She said, boy, you done lost your mind now. I said, why you said that? She said, why? Who in the world wants to supervise adults? I said, but Mom, I'm tired of breaking up fights in the cafeteria in my classroom. She said, don't you know, as a principal, you will break up more fights between your teachers than you ever have in the classroom. She said, but if you're going to be an effective principal, you better understand that when you walk into your school, there will be teachers who have been there for principal after principal after principal. She said, there are old ladies in these schools who are teaching the children of the children they taught. She said, go in and bow down and be humble. Don't be arrogant. She said, arrogance is the Achilles heel of the school principal. And I held on to that, and I went in. And my first faculty meeting, I said, Mom, you just wrote my first speech for my first faculty meeting. And I told those teachers exactly what my mother said. I just forgot, Kwame, to edit out the part about the old ladies. So I was in trouble, my first year. But it was so true. Leadership, as you know, is about service. If you
That's
don't
right.
serve, you can't lead. And I learned early on, if service is beneath you, leadership will always be beyond you. So those wise words from my mother passed away in 2002, but she left me with so many nuggets that helped me, because I'm 25 years into the principles. We have folks after 1 or 2 years, they say, man, I'm ready to give it up. But I think I've always had the approach that I'm in this role because I need to help others. God didn't give me this role to help me. He didn't wake me up because I needed to wake up. He woke me up because somebody else needed me to wake up. And I
That's
think
right.
that's what has sustained me for 25 years, as a.
And I've seen it with my own eyes. Like when Dr. L says he serves, he really serves. I mean, he's in the classrooms, he's substitute teaching, he's running chess club, taking kids to tournaments. Like I done seen it all. So
Yes, sir.
like when you talk about a leader who serves, I mean, he did that. And I've told people many times on this podcast, if you've listened to past episodes, I tell people Dr. L is the best principal I've worked under for that reason. I've had principals I've worked under as a classroom teacher who just stay in their office all the time, didn't really engage with students. And I just kept thinking to myself, how do you really gauge the temperature of your school community if you're not interacting with your faculty and staff members, and more importantly, your student body? Like, how do you engage in that way?
Yeah, so true, brother. Yeah, I mean, as you know, because many times I would come in your room. Now, the only problem is, usually I come in the room, get the kids all riled up, and then you got to
Yeah, you try to rap and all that.
You remember those days?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I run into some of your former students sometime from time to time, man, and they just reminisce on the good, because it's rare when they have two black men in their presence. You know what I mean? Usually it's one or the other. But when you got a black male teacher and a black male principal working together, man, they feel like there's nothing I can't do. And it was just, it's just powerful to have your presence, in that building, and being able to send a message to those young people. You can be me because I was once you. So that's a powerful message. When you talk about that identity talk, that that's that, because people talk the talk, but can you walk the walk? And you walked, you were an example for them.
Yes. I think that identity started to form when I got to Russell Byers, because prior to that, I was at WPACE's, West Philadelphia Achievement Charter School. And how I came across Russell Byers was through my principal over there, Mrs. DeJuan Davis Harris, who you know really well.
I just saw a couple. I just signed a copy of my new book, Meet Their Needs and They'll Succeed. I wrote a book with ASCD, and I just
Yep.
signed a copy for her. So she was your principal back then?
Yes. When I
I
was at
didn't,
WPASIS,
I didn't
I
realize
had
that.
Mrs. Harris, and then I
Yeah,
had another black man. His name is Dr. John Craig. Two
yeah, I
phenomenal
remember him,
leaders.
Dr. Craig.
Yep. Yeah, two phenomenal leaders. But Mrs. Harris was really the one who said, man, listen, because they're about to let me go. Like
Right.
when I was at WPASIS, I was a master's student at Temple trying to get my teaching cert,
Yeah.
but I wasn't getting any benefits. It was
Right.
hourly pay. If I missed time, I just didn't get paid for that day. So literally, I was going in there sick at times after spending after spending 3-4 hours the previous night in class getting
Right.
assignments done, and then all of a sudden I got to come back and then work a full day. So that was the grind. Like I
Mm,
was like trying to get this master's, but what she told me was, listen, I know they're about to let you go, but you should look into this opportunity at Russell Byers. I know Mr. L, I know the principal, my kids go there. I think it'll be a good fit for you.
mm.
And that's actually how I came across Russell Byers. But the funny thing is, and I told you this in my interview, my first sight of Dr. L was on YouTube. It was a Bill O'Reilly interview, the infamous Bill O'Reilly interview.
Oh yeah, yeah,
With
yeah.
you, Bill O'Reilly, Cameron, and Dame Dash. Now you
Yes,
have to
sir.
think,
The classic.
as as a mid 20-year-old kid in this hip hop generation at that time, Cameron, Dame Dash, you're thinking Rockefeller, you're thinking Dipset. At that time, they were the hottest names in the
Right.
game. And I'm listening to their music. So you're thinking, I'm 24, 25 at this time. I see this black man who is a principal, and he's in the same room as these two guys who I listen to. I'm
Mm.
like, okay, he got some cred now. Like
Right.
you are certified in my eyes at
That's the
that
hip
point,
hop
and I'm
principle,
trying to be an educator. So fast forward a year later, I'm in your office applying for this job, and I'm like, yo, this the guy that was in Bill Riley.
hmm Yeah. Yeah, I try to bring that hip hop influence into the
Yeah,
classroom, into well, because I come in and rap for the
of
kids
course.
and whatnot. But at that time, I also tried to go on a bigger platform and try to advocate for more of the positive message. I don't,
That's
I don't,
right.
I don't want to. I don't want. I'm not anti-rap because I'm a big rap fan, but I just think that this medium is reaching our children. And if you look at the way society is today, I tried to tell them 20 years ago, listen, we don't want to get to this place because these children will start living what they're listening to. I just would like you guys to maybe rap a little bit about what you're really doing so they'll see you buying real estate, you have businesses, you living, you're not living that gangster life because they think you are because you rap about it.
That's
and
right.
um and I was hoping that we could try to influence that generation to understand that it's more to the music than just what you hear, because many of them they didn't have the kind of parents that we had to teach
Mhm.
us about that. So really, they're getting their parenting, they're getting their schooling, everything through music. And then now with cell phones and the video games and the internet and social media, they have access to all kinds of messages now. So, I love the fact that there are some rappers out there now who are really talking about social responsibility and wanting to influence this generation in a more positive, just trying to take the murder and the violence away
Yeah.
from rap, because we've lost a lot of people along the way.
Are you ready to take your commitment to identity affirming education to the next level? Then join the forum, the new and exclusive membership space for the Identity Talk community. With membership tiers starting at $3 a month, you'll get early access to podcast episodes, bonus content, our Quam's Quotes monthly newsletter, and monthly live Q&A sessions. You'll also unlock discounts on workshops and products, engage in community discussions, access exclusive community and networking opportunities, and even business ad roles during episodes if you're a sponsor level member. Whether you're an ally, advocate, co conspirator, accomplice, or a sponsor, there's a place for you in the forum. So head over to identitytalk4educators.com. pricing plans /list and join the movement today. You ever heard of LaRussell?
No. Mm-mm.
You should listen to him. He's pretty much on that wavelength.
Yeah,
Cause
Russell. How do you
yeah,
spell that?
LA and Russell.
Okay, LA. Okay.
LARUSSELL.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
make sure I look him up because we need that.
Yeah. It's
You
good
know.
brother.
Yeah.
Great music. But I think this actually brings up a bigger point because, as you know, we're still talking about trying to get more Black male educators into the space.
Mm-hmm.
And I was fortunate to get that image of you with two rappers who I could relate to. That was an entry point of me getting to know you. And then eventually I got to see the impact and I got to see what you were able to do and also read I Choose to Stay.
Yes, sir.
But I'm wondering why we're still having this issue with getting more Black male educators into this space. And I'm wondering, is it, in your opinion, a marketing issue? Is it a systemic issue? What do you believe are the barriers still that are still in existence when it comes to getting more Black male educators recruited, but also retained? Because
Right.
we got to keep them around.
Very important. Yeah, I think it's a multitude of issues. One, of course, is a systemic issue. Men just have not been a part of the educational system. And if they have been, they've been in non-teaching roles, coaches, behaviorists, specialists, those kinds of things. I think also is the pay still plays a part because the men usually are the head of the family, have to take care of the household, especially if you have a spouse who stays home with the children. So if you talk about a profession where the average salary in some states is still 30, 40, 50,000, many
Yeah.
men just aren't attracted to that because they can't support their family. And then, like you talked about the marketing, it's just that teaching has always been historically a profession for women who wanted to get home, take care of the children, didn't
Yeah.
have to work during the summer, wasn't really seen as a job, for men. And I think that what, you and I being in this space actually helps the marketing because it shows men out there that you can be a teacher, but you can have a podcast, you can write books. We're both writing books, and I think that was one of my biggest goals with writing I Choose to Stay is I wanted to be able to show men and women that as educators, because I was told by 10, 11, 12 publishers that no one would ever buy my book, that teachers
Wow.
don't read about other teachers and folks don't buy books. And if they, and I finally signed with a publisher and they said, if we sell 5,000 copies, we'll make our money back. We sell 10,000 copies, we're in heaven. Kwame, there are over 50,000 copies of I Choose to Stay in print, you
Yeah.
know. Um, and simply because other teachers were out there supporting, especially many men, but mostly women. Women are just so supportive everywhere. And that's why I tell men all the time is we have to step up. We have to do our part. These women have carried us for over 200 years. We got to step up and do our part. But I think the marketing has to improve with reaching those men of color out there so that they understand that this is a profession for you, by you, where you can impact our young people, impact society and the community, um, but also that these women who have been here, they need us. And our young men are struggling in our schools. You go in almost
Yes.
every community, and it's not just in the Black community, in almost any community males are the lowest achieving in those communities. So we need to do a better job of attracting and then, as you said, retaining those males, creating that culture of belonging, those
Mhm.
authentic connections that are needed for men or just educators of color, period, on those cultures of cultural responsiveness where we understand, what they may be going through or what type of supports they need, creating mentoring networks that we know are needed, with other educators, of color. All of that is important because, you can work in the building sometime and you can feel like you're on the island. There are many educators where they're the only educator of color in their building. So when we got to, and if that's the case, then the leadership in that school or the leadership in that district has to find a network to help support those leaders of color, teachers of color, so that they can retain them and then attract more. Because the best form of recruitment is retention.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I want to make sure I shout out my guy, Sharif El Mekki, what he's doing with
Mm-hmm.
Center for Black Educator Development, powerful work, and also with BMEC as well.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, that's my guy, man. Me and Sharif
yeah,
as principals together in the school district of Philadelphia, and he's he's putting his life on the line out there. He's on the road a lot, away from his family, just trying to again improve that marketing of that black male, educator, those conferences and the outreach and the grants and
yeah,
all the work that's out there. So, I appreciate you giving a shout out, to Sharif, because he's doing some real warrior soldier work out there
yeah,
for black men, of black educators.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure, for sure. And just going back to mentorship, and even just going back to marketing, like what people don't realize is what you were able to do was pre-social media era.
Right.
When you wrote I Choose to Stay, there was no Instagram, there was no, like, you didn't have no Facebook, you
Facebook.
didn't have all these social media accounts, TikTok and all that.
Oh,
This is you
that was the hustle and grind. You know what I mean?
hustle and grind,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Hustle and grind. Like
Mm.
you, my other OG Principal Cathele,
Yeah.
like
That's my guy. I was
that
just
was hustle and grind. You didn't have a
Mhm.
vehicle like this to be able to talk about the book, but you still managed to generate enough attention and momentum around it for people to pay attention to it. And I feel like that has allowed for other folks like myself and many others to say, you know what? I don't got to be just somebody in the classroom. I
Mhm.
can be someone that can write books. I can write movie scripts. I
Sure.
can, I can keynote and
Mhm.
speak to thousands of people in this lecture hall. I could do whatever I want to do and still be an educator. And that was something that I didn't envision until I came across you.
Right.
Because before that, it was more of the traditional sense, be in the classroom, teach, impact students that way, which is all important. But I didn't realize how versatile you can be in that space. So, in thinking about your own career, I just want to know, how have you been able to manage the speaking engagements and all the other work you do and still show up as a full-time principal? Because I just think it's remarkable how you've been able to do that
Yeah.
all these years.
I think I was at the forefront, I think, of like being an edupreneur is what I call it. An
Yeah,
edupreneur, being an educator, but also an entrepreneur, using your work to create a product that could be marketed, to help solve problems that other folks were having that you may have already solved. Being an urban educator, being an urban teacher, urban leader, you know, um, helping others solve some of those same problems. And it is, and it's a challenge because on top of being a teacher, principal, author, speaker, chess coach, right?
yes,
I'm also a father of two daughters, you know what I mean? So, it's and two, my oldest daughter just graduated from UPenn, graduate school, education. She's a school, she'll be a school counselor. And then my youngest daughter, it will be a senior at Bowie State, HBCU in Maryland.
nice,
She's
yeah,
our major. Being there to support them, and then being a mentor for other teachers and other principals. I'm trying to support them. And then also the young people in my school who don't have fathers, trying to be there to support them, as well. It's a lot. And and I appreciate you recognizing, acknowledging that can be a struggle, and it is. But I have a great team, and I think that's the key with anything, is understanding that no man does it alone. I have a great team at school. I have a great team in the community, at home, even with my writing and movie development and all those kinds of things. I have a team of people who work with me, even my co-authors on the leadership books. All of, even just getting my doctorate, man, that took me forever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it was other people supporting me and encouraging me and saying, hey, listen, I'm just checking up on you because I need you to finish. I need you to finish. We all need that. We all need those people to help keep us, help keep us going, keep us active. So the only way I've been able to do it in a nutshell is because of the support of other people, in the educational community, but outside, but also social media. One advantage is you make connections with people who can be very helpful and can open doors for you as well.
Absolutely. That is a fact. And before we get into the new book, I do want to ask this question regarding how you measure success as a school leader, especially now at this stage of your career, when you're assessing yourself as the leader of your school. What does that look like for you these days?
Well, to be quite honest with you, I'll tell you right now, the number one important priority for every school leader right now is hiring teachers and being able to keep them in your school. Student outcomes, student success is important. School culture is important. School safety is important. Instructional leadership is super important. But none of that happens if you can't get certified teachers, in your school. And hiring teachers today, Kwame, for me, it's like the Hunger Games.
Mm,
You out here hiring folks, and in another month or two, they'll be taking jobs somewhere else before they even start, with you. So it's I measure success by, is there joy in the school? Because joy and learning and resilience are all three factors that must be happening in schools on a daily basis. Are people, are teachers and students and parents knocking the door down to get in or knocking the door down to get out? Because as a school leader, that has to be your barometer. Because as a school leader, you're not the thermometer in the building, you're the thermostat. You set the climate, you set the temperature for what happens, in your school. And so that success really is measured by, those teachers. Are they happy? Those students, are they happy? Are they learning? Are they coming to school? Are they going off and becoming successful? Are they going to college? Are they working? Are they serving in the community? Getting into good high schools, getting into good colleges? Are they kind to one another?
mm,
I take that very personal, and I tell parents that they say, "Well, why are you so upset? It's my child." I said, because I take it very personal when a child that's under my leadership is not kind, is not caring, is not loving, because those are the things that when they're older, the self-regulation, the critical thinking, the empathy, the understanding, those are the things that are going to carry them through, not their test scores in middle school. Nobody's going to say, you know what, I want to be your friend because you have good test scores. They're going to say, I want to be your friend because you don't bully me. You
that's right.
support me. You actually help me fight against some bullies. You actually lift me up. You make me feel better. You share. You care. That's what I want for young people. And that's really, and I know that may go against the beliefs that are out there, in the research, but I'm telling you right now, I've never had a young person come to me after they finish college or finish school, a successful job, anything, and say, listen, I'm so glad you stayed on me, and made sure I got every assignment done and gave me work on the weekends and never gave me any free time and didn't believe in me. No, that's not what they say. They say, I want to thank you for not giving up on me,
That's
even
right.
when I struggled, and teaching me how to fail. Because building resilient young people is not about teaching them how to be successful. It's about teaching them how to respond when they're not. And I think that is at the end of the day, I want young people to say that Principal L taught me that at some point in my life, I was going to fall down. And when I do, if I can look up, I can get up. And that's what I want them to believe. Because if you get up and keep going, you will become successful, because it's those stumbles and those struggles that'll make you stronger and able to fight through all those battles.
I know that's right.
Yes,
And this is
sir.
a perfect segue into your newest book, which I believe is a thesis for your career from the classroom, even as a leader still. Meet their needs and they'll succeed. It sounds like a very simplistic title, but there's so much that has to be unpacked there, because when I think about even the amount of sacrifice and the amount of investment you've put into young people over the years, it speaks to that mantra. And it's a major reason why you've been able to be as successful as you are as a leader up until this point. So just tell me, what motivated you to want to write this book now, and what are you hoping that teachers will be able to do differently after reading this book?
And you notice ASCD made that title rhyme too, because they know, I'm a wannabe rapper. Meet their needs and they'll succeed.
That's
All
right.
about, transforming lives through positive, relationships. And I wanted to write this book because I wanted teachers and leaders to realize that it doesn't take millions of dollars. Yeah, that helps. But what it really takes is being able to just sit down at a lunch table and talk to a kid, find out what's going on in their life. The book is rooted in my 4 C's of school success. Being crazy about kids, curious about their lives outside of school, consistent adults in the lives of young people, and building a culture of love and support and empathy and understanding and high expectations, a culture of belonging, where every child and every teacher deserves to be heard, seen, valued, and celebrated. And that's really what the book is about. And I opened the book up. I'm on Father's Day, I'm in the hospital. You had emergency appendectomy on Father's Day. And I'm not, instead of being home eating my Father's Day dinner, I'm in the hospital having surgery. And these nurses are taking care of me, Kwame, treating me like I'm royalty, waking me up every 2 hours, but apologizing. And I'm saying to myself, this is what kids in school need. They need adults who make them feel like, hey, listen, I know I'm giving you this medication. I know I'm giving you these needles, and I know it hurts, but I'm going to make you feel like it's pleasure, that everything is okay, that you can be successful. And those nurses told me, you're going to get out of it. I was only in the hospital for a few days, but they took care of me. And in that hospital is when I decided that this is going to be the theme for this book. That these children, because teachers have to take care of, nurses get to care for each patient in each room. Teachers have to take care of all their patients in the same room in front of one another. That's a struggle. And so I said, if we meet their needs, they will succeed. And so in the book, I talk about this trauma-informed practices, and each chapter is filled with strategies and principles that we can implement today, some we can implement next week, next month, and some next year, but they don't cost you anything. Just ways that we can improve the lives of young people and teachers. One of my favorite chapters, I have a chapter on creating joyful, engaging, and challenging classrooms. Joy and learning can exist in the same classroom, same school. They're not mutually exclusive. Students can be excited about learning. That's what I tried to do, when we worked together, tried to create that environment where, students come in and they don't know what we're going to do that day. Used to have all these engaging lessons you would do with the young people, just anything to get them, excited. But I also talk about the critical thinking. I think we wait too late to teach students how to critically think. We can't wait until high school, elementary, middle school. We need to teach students how to problem solve, how to think critically, how to build relationships, with one another. And also, I have a chapter on community engagement and after school programs, which is so, important, especially in today's world where these budgets are being cut. Those community partnerships become, very important. And then the last chapter is really about educators who are choosing to stay. Why are they still there in these challenging times after all these years? Let's study why those teachers are there and find a way. Like you asked me earlier, what is it? Is it the marketing? Is it the systemic issues? What is it? We need to look at what is it that keeps these teachers there for 10, 20, 30, 40 years and find out what can we learn from them and use to attract and retain, these teachers. And the book is has been very popular. I was just at the ASCD conference in San Antonio, and I know that you gave a presentation, a virtual one as well. And I was signing books, and there was a lady who came with 4 books. And I said, wow, thanks for the support. You bought 4 books, not one. And she was from California. She said, no, actually, we bought 900 books. I just needed 4. She said, every teacher in my district received this book. And then they said they wanted to do a book study, but we could only accommodate 200 teachers. So we said, listen, the first 200 teachers that sign up in the next 2 weeks, we're going to start a book study. She said in 2 days, we had 200. I said, man, that is really, really a blessing. And I'm going to be in California next month, and I'm going to try and stop by their school district and just thank those teachers for the support, because they understand the power of meeting the needs of young people. There's a school district in Idaho. The superintendent reached out to me, said, I'm buying this book not only for every teacher, but every paraprofessional every staff member in my district. I want them to read this book and understand we all make an impact, on young people. Rhode Island, Pennsylvania, all these places people are buying, meet their needs. Philadelphia bought 600 copies for all of their principals and assistant principals. The support and the outreach and the response has been, amazing. So I'm just thankful. I'm honored. I'm humbled. And there would be no Principal L without, young people like you coming into our profession and then taking it to the next level, becoming an author yourself, podcast, and then the influence you have in helping people learn what they need to do to stay in this profession, but also become effective, become advocates for themselves, agents, develop that agency and also that identity, because we know that matters, so much.
Hi friends, it's me, Thaddeus from Thaddeus Nature Notebook. Are you loving our journey into the wild and learning all about awesome animals? Then don't forget to subscribe. You can find Thaddeus Nature Notebook on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Just hit that subscribe button and never miss a new episode. And if you're on YouTube, give us a thumbs up and leave a comment about your favorite animal. Thanks for listening and exploring nature with me. Let's keep discovering together. Now back to my daddy's self.
Yeah, for sure. And when I think about the type of environments that we've had to teach in, we had no choice but to meet their needs so they could succeed.
Yes, sir.
Because they're in situations where the need is great.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it marries perfectly with I choose to stay.
Yes, sir.
And the reason why we choose to stay is because we recognize that the need is greatest in our community.
Amen. You preaching, brother. I knew you were a teacher. I didn't know you were a preacher.
Come on.
Because I tell people, we got to stop praying for a lighter load and start praying for a stronger back, because the need is there. And the load is heavy. I know that. So I'm not saying anybody has a light load, but what I want them to understand is that the stronger back comes from us as a community of educators from all over the world. From all over the world, educators, we come together and find ways to meet the needs of our children. And we share those best practices, so that because we're all one large community trying to make a difference for our young people. And so, I want to thank you for all you do and all that you inspire, out there.
And I think with Meet Their Needs and They'll Succeed, this is a book that's about servant leadership. This is a book that's about, hey, we got to be innovative in how we interact with our kids. We got to sometimes think outside the box.
Yes, sir.
And not wait for somebody to give us a solution as to what to do. Sometimes we got to just do what we got to do. And that's effort.
Yes, sir.
We're talking about effort. Sometimes it might be, in my case, I've had to go into some of my kids' homes to have parent-teacher conferences because I knew that their mom or their dad didn't have the transportation to get to the school. So let me go there, because I live in the neighborhood. Let me go there, right?
Meet their needs, so
meet their needs and they'll succeed. Like you gotta sometimes go, think outside the box, but
you gotta go to where they are and help them and help them to go where you want them to go. But we got to meet them where they are. That's what you did, brother. And I wish more teachers would hear that and understand that. Let me tell you what else I want to do too, is that you have listeners who are under your voice right now. The first two to reach out to me on social media, I'm going to send them a free copy of Meet Their Needs. You know, the first two to contact me on social media, I'm going to reach out. I'm going to send them a copy of Meet Their Needs. And I may even do a bonus. Maybe the third one, you got a latecomer, I might send them a copy if I choose to stay. But you gotta be a part of the Identity Talk community, okay? Because there's unity in the community. So if you're following my brother and you reach out to me on social media, I'm gonna send you an autographed copy of Meet Their Needs, and I choose to stay. So reach out to me. Reach out to me.
Listen,
I want to let you wrap up soon, but I know you had a question before we wrap.
I did. I did. And this is the question I ask everybody on this podcast. How do you continue to stay true to the teacher in you? And for you in particular, you've won all the accolades. You've spoken on all these different stages. You've been able to impact so many young people like myself to want to become teachers. You've done practically everything there is to do in the space. What keeps you going?
Still here. And you know what, brother? Listen, I even came to Nigeria and spoke on the stage in Lagos, and went to visit some schools and was teaching chess to some young people in Nigeria. So, you know, yes, I've been like Run DMC. I've been on many stages, you know, but I think I go to bed every night with satisfaction and wake up every morning with determination, because I know there's some young person out there who needs to be inspired. There's some teacher. Many of them think they're tired, but they're really uninspired. And so I want to inspire them to keep going. But Kwame, also I realized there were people who came before us.
That's right.
Who fought through, who had dogs sick on them, who had water hoses on them, who were beat down with clubs.
Yeah.
And they fought through to become teachers so they could open the doors for us. So I think that's really what keeps me going. I was watching the Malcolm X movie with Denzel Washington with my daughter yesterday, just teaching her about all the sacrifice. Man gave his life. He knew his life was in danger, but he wouldn't stop teaching and he wouldn't stop preaching because he knew somebody needed to be inspired. And so I think that's what keeps me going, is knowing that the community needs me. And also I need the community, because I want to feel like I'm making a difference. And it's seeing people like you that are out there impacting others is what keeps me going, because I know one day we'll be able to come together again and say, listen, we actually did increase the number of Black male educators. We actually did increase teacher pay. We actually did increase the number of programs they have to help support minorities and other underserved communities, under people who are not having their needs met in our schools. You know, we will be able to come together and say that happened because we didn't give up. You know, in the most challenging time, the bravest act is choosing to stay. And I'm glad that we're in this fight. And we're going to fight from many different levels. We can't always be in the classroom. We gotta, we gotta battle. That's why even in chess, I teach my young people, you better watch out from the sideline, because there's some knights and bishops that may not be too prominent, but they'll come in, so we have to attack the problem from all angles, from all positions in society. And I'm just thankful that you and we share this space together, and we're still in the fight.
Yes. And then a short story to wrap this up, to bring this thing all together. So you mentioned that it was on Father's Day, when you were in the hospital, that you decided, I got to write this book. Well, I happen to have a Father's Day story. So for our listeners and viewers, this conversation was actually supposed to happen on Father's Day, right? Now, when I interviewed for the teacher fellow position at Russell Byers, it was August 26, 2008. Now, I'm going to tell you why this date is significant, particularly the August 26th part. That's actually my father's birthday.
Wow.
And truth be told, I don't have the greatest relationship with my father. Of course, over the last couple of years, I've been able to bring closure and reconcile with that. But at that time, 2008, I wasn't talking to my pops.
Right.
I didn't really have a father figure. So for you to come in at the time that you did and said, hey, like, you're raw, but you can be a teacher. If you just stick with the process, you get to where you need to go, you're going to be the lead teacher in the classroom. And you really set that for me. Like, you really did. You were just being a father figure, not just to myself, but even at that time to Nate. Shout out to Nate, Demetrius, God rest his soul. Like, you were there.
And you
And
know,
you gave us gems.
Nate's the principal hand
I
woman
know.
with that.
I said, man, like, even with Nate, like, TEDx speaker, head of school. I'm like,
yeah.
I didn't see, I knew he was going to teach, but I didn't see all this. But it all stemmed from just being around you, that immortality of influence, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, no doubt
But
about
I just wanted to make that connection
it.
because
I appreciate that story, brother. You know what I mean? And I'm thankful. I'm thankful for you. And I will continue to follow, your work, and hopefully we can maintain our connection, because it's one that we
yes, sir.
have been able to maintain for almost 20 years. So we got to keep it going.
Yes, sir, of course. And then finally, before I let you go, Dr. L, please let people know how they can connect with you on social media, and also how they can get a copy of Meet Their Need and They'll Succeed.
Yeah. So they can, the book is available on the ASCD website, ascd.org. They can go on Amazon as well. But folks can find me, at my website, principal.el.com. That's principal.el.com. They can also find me on Facebook at Principal L, Instagram, Dr. Principal L, on X at Principal_EL. I'm also on LinkedIn as well as Dr. Salome Thomas-EL. So if they Google me, they'll find me. And remember, the first two Identity Talk family members, when you reach out to me, you're going to get a signed copy of Meet Their Needs. And then the third one that comes in as a latecomer, whoever you are, because I know somebody's going to come and say, well, I was almost made. I'm going to make sure I send you a copy of either Meet Their Needs or I Choose to Stay. I want to be able to bless you. It's a blessing to be able to bless others. And one thing I learned in working with Kwame is that in this work, we want to be a blesser and not a stressor.
There we go. Ending with the rhyme.
Yes, sir.
And we're going to end it like that.
Yes.
But Dr. L, as always, thank you for everything. Thank you for coming on to this space. This was a long time coming, but I'm glad that we're able to do it today. And on behalf of Dr. L, for those who are listening and watching, thank you for tuning in to another episode of IDTALK4ED Educators Live. And as always, I wish you all good morning, good afternoon, good night, wherever you are in the world. And we're going to do this again another time. Peace out, everybody.
Peace.